Welcome to Just Talk Funerals with me, Jason Threadgold.
And me, Nichola Threadgold.
Just Talk Funerals is all about the funeral industry, the people that work alongside us, and an insight into what we do.
We will have some special guests along the way, sharing their experiences and how their professions overlap with what we do.
So get yourselves comfy, grab yourselves a cuppa, and let's get into today's episode of
Just Talk Funerals. Hello and welcome to the next episode of Just Talk Funerals. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the exciting news of us opening our new memorial showroom here in Scunthorpe. Really, we're looking at how we've created such a beautiful, calming space for our memorial setting to help those families who are looking to choose memorial items and headstones, aren't we?
Definitely. And it's really, there was nothing in North Lincolnshire where you could physically go and sit and look in a showroom and you couldn't touch and feel anything. So we thought that it's about time that we brought that to people, allowing them the ability to see different types of fonts, different ways of cutting and etching stones, and all the options that are available to them, really. Yeah. So I think it was time that we added this on, much as we've always done memorials. Yeah. It was about time that we had somewhere where people could come and sit and talk and see.
Yeah, and I think as well, the inspiration of it is that, like you say, we've done them for many years. Well, since we started, didn't we? 11 years ago, we've always done memorials. I don't think we've always so much shouted about it as much as we will start to market it more now that we've got the showroom. And we've got some amazing consultants on board now in terms of the training that we've done with them. So they're very much up to date with memorials, headstones. And I think, just so that people are aware, when I worked at the crematorium, I was sort of in charge on the headstone side and the memorials. I used to pass all the permits, deal with all the different types of memorials that the memorial masons and funeral directors would send through for authorisation to go into the different cemeteries. So I've got the background of that knowledge and where the authorisation and the legalities around the regulations lie, which is then what we've passed on to the team who are the consultants.
Yeah, and I think them consultants, they've been processing memorial orders for many years now.
Yeah.
But the two in North Lincolnshire and the one in North East Lincolnshire, they're going to be able to expand on the offering that we've had in the past.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think being able to sort of come into an environment where you sit and you physically look at a stone, and perhaps you may well even sit there and it brings something up on a screen and you can sort of see how it's going to look in situ. I think that will make such a big difference to people when they're choosing a stone.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's certainly the future of being able to choose a headstone, isn't it? But we're not just going to do headstones, are we? And we've not always just done headstones either. I mean, we do vases, we do flower vases and jewellery, tablets, urns. We do the teddies, don't we, which are so cute, where you can have a teddy formed out of your loved one's clothing. And we've done quite a few of those over the years, haven't we? So there's lots of different memorial type items that we want to introduce as we sort of go along with the memorial side of the showroom. There might be other areas that we venture into. But yeah, it's not just about the headstones, is it?
No, I think there's so many different ways to memorialise somebody, and it's all about personal taste and whatever you feel is right for you. I mean, the building itself, it's got multi-use, the building, but the memorial showroom we're going to talk about today, we've designed it very much to mirror what we already have in our funeral homes.
Yeah.
We like more modern like a fleck of colour or something in there, some greens and pinks, neutral colours for your backgrounds, and it's a really calming setting. It's not like walking into a formal environment where you're sitting at a desk and putting in an order. Take some time on the sofas, have a drink, have a chat, look at things on screen. That there's so many different ways of going through this process that we don't want to force you into making it too formal at that point.
No.
And just relax things and make you feel like you're in your own home environment, really.
Yeah, and I think, and that's probably where we've researched a little bit, isn't it, into having the showroom, because for the last 10, 11 years, we've used the funeral home, haven't we? And we've got sort of separate areas and offices in there where we can take people. But we just felt that choosing a memorial needed to be more of a special place and somewhere that was away from the funeral home more, so that people can relax more.
Yeah, I mean, the funeral home, as much as you think a funeral home is a quiet, serene space, which it is in areas, it can also be quite a busy space as well.
Yeah.
And to take people away from that environment, make them more comfortable, I think that's definitely what we sort of wanted to do.
Yeah.
And give them their own space away from everything else.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm going to talk about a little bit about the sort of things that you can do with a memorial, and some of the things that you maybe don't know can be done with a memorial.
Yeah.
You can personalise them in many different ways, and people often use photographs of the person, whether it's of them or of multiple people. We can extract one person from a photograph if need be. People have started using QR codes and creating their own websites as like a memorial page to somebody, so you can stand in the cemetery, you can scan that QR code and it'll take you directly to that person's personal memorial website. And even on occasions, some people have put like a Spotify code on, so you scan a code and it takes you to that person's favourite playlist.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously these things need to be hosted, but there's so many options when you're looking at memorial. It's not just wording and a picture. There's all sorts of things you can do with them now. And I think we're just scraping the surface with what will happen with memorials in the future as well.
Yeah. And I think as well, if we just go back to the jewellery, and again, we've done jewellery for a long time, and that was something that I got really interested in terms of how we could bring jewellery into the business to, for loved ones to be able to have that sort of keepsake, because the jewellery can be extremely special, and we have jewellery not just for ashes, for cremated remains, where a small amount is put into like a setting, but we also have jewellery for hair and also for thumbprints and fingerprints, don't we? Because we wanted to give that range, that it's just not about those that are cremated, but also those that may be buried, that you can have hair or you can have your fingerprints, loved one's fingerprints put into that jewellery. And I think, jewellery has been very popular for us, hasn't it?
Definitely.
Because as I say, it's such a special keepsake and something that can be handed down to others, isn't it?
And I think you say special there, it's one of those things where you're physically taking part of that person around with you.
Yeah.
So it's so precious. I mean, the fingerprints and thumbprints, yes, but when you've got ashes or hair incorporated into something, I mean, you've got to be so careful with something like that. It's not just a piece of jewellery that can then be passed on or sold to somebody else. That is something that's staying with you and your family for a lifetime, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And the range, we do the rings, we do the necklaces, earrings, and there's jewellery for men, isn't there? There's bracelets, cufflinks. So there's a real range. And because we work very closely with mainly two companies, don't we? We've got some that are more traditional styles, whereas others are probably a little bit more modern. So there's a real good, vast range, isn't there, of what people can choose from?
There's all sorts.
All sorts. I think as well, the excitement of doing jewellery for me is because I was in the jewellery industry for a number of years. So, to be able to bring jewellery into it, and, we've got all the proper ring sizing and everything, so that we're not getting it wrong. It's not just a case of putting a piece of paper around your finger or one of those plastic loops. We've got all the proper stuff. Well, of course we have.
Is that how it used to be done with a piece of paper?
Yeah, there are times where you can do it with a piece of paper or one of those like little plastic little things that you put round. But we've invested in the whole proper stuff, haven't we? So that we can make sure that everything is done properly and we get things right the first time.
Yeah, I'm going to quiz you on that a little bit then. I know that we weren't going to talk about it. I'm going to quiz you on this. So when you're taking a ring size,
yeah,
it's really going to depend on a lot of factors, isn't it, as
There
well?
is.
And it can be, I guess, weather conditions, heat, cold.
There's a lot of factors to consider when you're doing ring sizing with somebody, and whether they're a man or a woman as well. But yeah, like you say, the weather conditions, if somebody's got really hot hands, that means their fingers may be slightly swollen. If it's a really cold day, the fingers will, have shrunk. So getting a ring size right can be really difficult, and you've got to really take into consideration those sorts of things, because measuring somebody's finger on a hot day could mean when they actually receive the ring and it's gone a bit colder, that ring swivels or it doesn't sit right. And if it's a ring that's got a top on it, like a solitaire style, that's always going to be top heavy. So if you don't get that ring size right, that ring will just keep spinning and you will be forever pushing it back to where it should be. So yeah, there's a lot of things you've got to bear in mind. And, with a man and a woman, a man has, in theory does have a bigger knuckle. So you've got to be able to make sure that you get the sizing right, because once it's over the knuckle, again, it can be spinning. So yeah, you've got to look at all different ways. But yeah, that's just a little bit of what I've learned in the jewellery industry.
Well, that's tricky, really, isn't it?
It can be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I must admit that there are ways of combating that. If it does happen to be your hand was swollen at the time, I guess it's nothing that can't be changed if need be. You can make alterations to jewellery if you need to do, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely. But, it's like everything, and, within our industry, you want to get it right the first time. You don't want to get a family come in, they're excited to see that the ring that they've chosen for it to be too big or too small. So, again, you feel like you would be letting the family down. So these little, just little hints and tips around making sure you get it right. And as I say, we've got all the relevant sort of tools to be able to do that. Just make sure that we can specifically get it right.
Yeah. Okay, right. So I'm going to flip this a little bit. I'm going to talk about walking through the journey of choosing and fitting a memorial.
Yeah.
Okay, for your loved one. And we know this can be an emotional and overwhelming process for some people, because you've built up through the funeral service, if you've had the funeral service through us, and then even more emotion can come up when you start thinking that I'm going to memorialise somebody in a permanent way by choosing a headstone or a memorial that fits on a grave, perhaps.
Yeah.
So guidance and practical insights into this. Should we have a little bit of a chat about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So we need to start understanding the different types of memorials and the meanings behind different cemeteries. So you can start with what people know as a normal grave, so a lawned grave.
Yep.
So a lawned grave, that's where you are allowed just a headstone. That's it, to a certain size and specification. You can't then use the space in front of the ground because it says it in the word, so it means lawned, so that you can then cut the grass or that can be tended for in front of the stone. The next step up from that, you've got what's called a traditional grave. Now, at the minute, I'm talking about in council cemeteries and private cemeteries here. So a traditional grave also allows you to pull a curb set out in front of the headstone. Yep. So if you don't know what a curb set means, it's literally a curb that goes around the border of that grave. Yeah. So it will come out probably to about 7 foot by anywhere up to sort of 2'6", 3 foot. And it surrounds that grave, so that becomes your private space. And then what happens within that boundary, within reason, it is pretty much up to you. Yeah. So long as you don't then start putting lots of other memorials within there, but it gives you that space to have keepsakes, flowers, vases, all sorts of things. And you can have some lovely little chip-ins and sort of stones and things in there, and lots of different colours and styles. And cremated remain graves as well. I mean, they work on the same principle where you have a lawn and a traditional.
Yeah.
So you can have on a much smaller scale. So your grave space is a lot smaller when you're talking about a cremated remains grave, because you don't need all that space to carry the receptacle that holds a human.
Yeah.
So usually those graves hold either 2 to 4 people, depending on your cemetery.
Yeah.
In churchyards, it differs
Yeah.
somewhat, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So it will all depend on your local diocese and what they allow you to do. And there's a really fine line with this, because your incumbent, which is the vicar that's looking after that church, some are a little bit more relaxed and some are really strict where they'll stick to the guidelines.
Yeah.
So choosing a stone that goes in there can be very hard. And some of the restrictions on there are an awful lot tighter than they are in a council cemetery. Do you agree?
Yeah, definitely. But I think, we work in collaboration with both the local authority and the ministers who have the jurisdiction in the churchyards, don't we?
We do.
So, that's the sort of work that we would do in the background for a family, wouldn't we? We would obviously find out what the family required and what their wishes were and what the sort of stone that they would want, and then we would give that information over to either the local authority or to the church to look at that, to make sure that, one, it's within regulations, because they're all very different, aren't they?
Oh, they are.
In terms of the sizing, even the thickness of like the granite, everything is really important, isn't it? And very strict. And obviously from there, we would work with them, especially like you say with churches. Sometimes they come back and say, well, we're not happy with this, or this isn't allowed, so we have to tweak it with the family, don't we? But we're just constantly discussing it with both parties, aren't we? Just to in the end get the solution and of what somebody wants and is happy with.
Yeah, I mean, we pretty much know. I mean, we're doing it long enough now to know which cemeteries and which churchyards will allow what, and which ministers are a little bit more flexible than others.
Yeah.
But it's just them finer details. It's like the difference between a polished stone and a honed stone.
Yeah.
That can make a massive difference when you're in a churchyard.
Yeah.
Because honed isn't so bright, there's no reflection on it, but you can get some that are really, really close to looking like the polished, but they are actually honed.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, all the headstones, I mean, they're all beautiful in their own way, aren't they? And I must say, initially I was never sure on a honed sort of stone in granite, but then the more we've worked with it, it is beautiful, isn't it? It is eye-catching, but in a different way.
Yeah, and I think when you bring elements of colour into your lettering as well, so not necessarily gold leaf or silver leaf, using white on a grey honed stone really stands out, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And then we can talk about, like the designing, and that's where, families have got, especially with local authorities, you've got probably a bit more of a license to do what you want, to make it how you want it. So in terms of design, there's lots of ways that you can design that headstone to make it really bespoke to your loved one, can't you? Whether that's through, I mean, we have some amazing examples of where we've had a photograph brought in of a loved one, and then it's been etched onto that headstone. And they just look beautiful, don't they? The way that they've been depicted, and the way that it can be done, like a pencil drawing, but on granite. Yeah,
and equally, there's the other way of doing the photograph and imagery, where you can have it on a printed disc that sits nicely on the front of the stone as well. So that brings colour into it as well.
Yeah,
there's loads of different options, and even to the extent where you talk about the design of the stone and the shapes of the stone, it doesn't need to be this set rectangular with what we call an ogee top on it. You can have everything. I mean, we've done things like football shirts, an actual football. There's all sorts of different designs that you can choose, and it's all about being bespoke, unique to that person that you're doing it for, and not necessarily having to follow the trend or fashion of what everybody else is doing.
No, and I think it is around depicting your loved one, isn't it? And I think that's where we do sit with families, and we you know, we've never known the person in life, but to just sit and talk about that person, it gives us sort of ideas of maybe things that could be incorporated onto a headstone. Can you remember that one we did for the child, and it was all in the night garden?
Oh, bless, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was beautiful.
It was, wasn't it? Yeah, I mean, that was a traditional cemetery, wasn't it? So it was a curb and everything on.
Yeah.
So it gave more space to allow for that extra imagery around the curb as well, didn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think we've done Thomas the Tank Engine as well.
Oh, there's been all sorts.
Yeah.
When you start looking, some of those that are amazing.
Yeah. And I must say, I think for me, I mean, I'm a bit of a blingy girl, but, you know, anything where they've incorporated Swarovski crystals, you know, something like that that's a bit shiny, and when the sun shines at certain times of the day on some of these headstones, they're just so beautiful, aren't they? But, you know, there's just so much that can be used.
Yeah, are you trying to say you're a magpie?
I would say I am, yeah, actually.
You're
Yeah,
attracted
you should
to
know that.
Well, I didn't
you should know
that. I should know that really well, yeah. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the process of putting a stone in situ.
Yeah.
So this is where it can seem like it's going on for a while,
Yeah.
and there's lots of different factors why it's going on. So when you have had your burial, or when you come to the point where you want to put a stone memorial on a grave, you get into a formal process.
Yeah.
And it's this, if it's within a cemetery and you've just recently had a burial, you need to allow that ground to settle. So if you were to put a stone immediately onto that grave, it just wouldn't sit right. In the future, it would start to lean. Whatever you put underneath it, it would start to lean.
Yeah.
So you allow a certain amount of time. And the local authorities would prefer you to do sort of 4 to 6 months before you put a stone on.
Yeah.
So what we've found over the years, and I think you'll agree, is people get in the mind that you can't put it on for that time, so they'll wait.
Yeah.
And then you've kind of delayed things a little bit. Because the way a memorial is ordered and the amount of proofs that you go through before it's actually cut or inscribed, it's maybe worth starting having them conversations sooner rather than later with your memorial mason.
Yeah.
Because it can take 4 to 6 months for you to get that memorial ready,
Yeah.
whether that be importing the granite. I mean, we choose to use Indian granite for all of ours. Some people use Chinese granite. And I mean, there's Scottish granite as well. Scottish granite's really dense and really heavy, but there's loads of different types of granite from around the world you can use. So you've got this sort of 4 to 6 month. What you can be doing in the background there is going through that process of creating your proofs, designing it, making it look like what it's going to be like when it is actually ready. And you can sort of coincide with that time where you are then allowed to put that stone on there. And I think it's key for us to say that when you put a stone onto a grave, it's not just what you see above ground.
No.
So there are elements of it that actually go beneath the ground to stabilise that.
Yeah. Well, we come to regulations again, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah, and we have this thing, what's called a NAM fitting.
Yeah.
Now, a NAM fitting, so that's NAMM. This is a rod or rods that go through the stone, through the base and into the ground to a certain depth. Now, what that does is it stabilises the stone in an upright position. So when your ground has settled, it's not just like you've got a stone pushing against the earth. You've got rods under the ground which are also pushing in the opposite direction. Now, I'm no one for physics, but I pretty much understand that it's going to make it a sheer impossibility for direction above ground to go opposite to the direction below ground.
Yeah. I mean, in theory, it's all about the health and safety, isn't it? Because, you know, if one of these headstones fell on somebody, you know, there could be a lot of damage or even...
They're very weighty, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's imperative that the NAM rods and the fitting is in place properly, and no headstone should be fitted without that.
No, and I mean, that equally comes back to if there's been a memorial in situ and you're putting an additional inscription on it, it might have been something that's been there years or decades that wants a refurb, regilding, and then another inscription putting on.
Yeah.
The minute you lift that from the ground, if you then find out it doesn't have a NAM fitting in it, current regulation says that before you put that memorial back on, you have to adapt it.
Yeah.
So it will mean adding that NAM fitting to it. You can't lift it, realise that, there isn't one there, and just pop it straight back on.
No.
The minute that stone's moved,
Yeah.
you've sort of interfered with the ground. You're going to have to adapt it, aren't you?
Well, I guess in theory, you've interfered with it, so you've made it becomes a bit of a weak point, doesn't it? So it does need something to steady it back, in terms of a NAM. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so would you class what we're doing as creating works of art?
Absolutely. I mean, I have always said that to families. It is. There's nothing. If you walk round a cemetery or a churchyard, there is not one stone that is exactly the same as another. They are definitely works of art, and I see the granite as the canvas. As much as the granite can be very shapely, hearts, different sort of shapes with it on the top of them or whatever, but, as soon as you start to add onto that granite, to me, it's like a canvas.
Yeah, and I think we get one good chance at this. Once you start cutting it, you're cutting it.
But that's why it's so important that you have so many proofs, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, right, I think we're going to wrap up this episode for today. So, if anyone's interested in this, if you want to inquire about this, we'd encourage you to email us at memorials@threadgoldfunerals.com. And if you need to speak to us on the phone, we're on the phones 24/7. Give us a call on 01724 865 865. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Just Talk Funerals.
We really care about what you think. We'd love your feedback on the subjects raised today. Or maybe you have a question you would like us to talk about in a future episode. You can contact us by emailing podcast@threadgoldfunerals.com.
If you'd like to know more about what we do and the services we offer, then please head to jasonthreadgoldfuneraldirector.com. Thank you for joining us today, and see you next time.